Fractal structures that can influence the study of art and science. Clouds are always changing, yet they never seem strange to us. Coastlines are jagged and uneven, yet on a map they appear as a single line. Maps do not reflect reality exactly. They turn complicated edges into simple lines so that we can represent them in a form we can work with. The figures we learn about in the classroom are usually regular and simple. They have smooth shapes like straight lines, circles, and triangles. Euclidean geometry is very effective for studying these kinds of shapes. The concept of dimensions is easy to understand. A line is one-dimensional, a plane is two-dimensional, and space is three-dimensional. The more we organize, the neater the world appears. But the boundaries in nature still retain a certain roughness, even after simplification. The edges of clouds, the branching of lightning, and the spreading of tree branches show new curves the closer we look, and even from far away, their shapes do not disappear. To explain why these shapes appear, a different language that communicates with nature was needed. This is when the idea of fractals was born. A fractal is a structure in which the parts repeat in shapes that resemble the whole, and this repetition appears at many different scales at the same time. In nature, there are geometric rules that can be seen in shapes. There are also rules for the processes that actually create those shapes, such as wind and water, and growth and erosion. A fractal is like a special sentence of nature, revealed where these two sets of rules overlap. We see such patterns when rivers gather their branches and flow into the sea, when tree branches split and stretch outward, and when leaves and flowers are arranged as if they are tangled together. Sometimes these patterns swirl like a spiral, and sometimes they change endlessly, like a kaleidoscope. These patterns are not perfectly symmetrical, but the similarity of the parts repeats and builds the whole. This creates symmetry of scale. Today, fractals often appear in art. The aesthetic effect of fractal art comes not just from its complexity, but from the great psychological pleasure we feel in patterns that balance on the edge between order and chaos. Some studies in visual neuroscience have reported that when the fractal dimension is around 1.3 to 1.5, brain activity becomes more stable and stress is reduced. Artists often sense this response intuitively. Jackson Pollock's drip paintings may look like random splashes of paint, but from an analytical perspective, their fractal characteristics are often discussed. In Antoni Gaudi's Sagrada Familia, and in the decorations of Hindu temples in India, small motifs combine to form larger ones, forming repeating patterns. People often feel as if they are looking at nature when they stand in front of these buildings. The gift of fractal art may seem like a coincidence, but it is not completely random. It is an attempt to recreate the complexity of nature in a convincing way. Fractals also give hints about how science explores the world. It is easy to misunderstand science as a way to remove complexity, but in reality, it is closer to finding repeating rules within complex phenomena. When a simple principle is repeated many times, it can produce entirely new shapes. Imagine the Koch snowflake or the Sierpinski carpet. The rule itself is simple, but as it is repeated, surprising shapes emerge. Sometimes, nature appears before us in this way. This idea is somewhat similar to the way artificial intelligence learns. When a process uses itself to explain or generate something, it is called recursive. Fractals are a prime example of a recursive structure. Once the rule for creating the parts is set, the whole can grow quickly. Even artificial intelligence cannot learn all the information in the world. What matters is not just the amount of information, but how it compresses and organizes the structure of that information. Artificial intelligence first learns a fundamental pattern, then transforms and extends it to create new results, a process that resembles the way fractals work. Why did these shapes take the form they did? What repeating rules might be hidden within them? And how could we use those rules to create things that make us happier? Nature is not always written in straight lines. Yet we try to uncover the rules even in its rough edges, because that is how mathematics has interacted with nature for a long time.